If you're thinking about traveling solo, but you are terrified that you're gonna get to your destination and just feel sad and isolated and lonely the whole time, you are not alone. I remember planning my first trip and I was so scared that I was gonna get to my destination with high hopes of making friends and nothing was gonna happen and I would just be doing everything by myself the whole time. And I'm a pretty independent person by nature. I love doing my own thing, but there is something very daunting about going to a foreign destination by yourself with no one there that you really know, because let me tell you, while it sounds a little bit contradicting, I have made more friends and I have been surrounded by the most amazing connections and community while solo traveling, and I would argue more so than when I'm traveling with a group. And while I am a huge fan of pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone and doing things by yourself that you may not have done before, it's also really important to have a connection and community as a solo traveler, especially if you're someone who travels long-term like I do. So in this video, I will be laying out my top 7 tips for how you can make friends as a solo traveler anywhere in the world. The number one way that I make friends and find community as a solo traveler is by staying in shared living spaces. I've talked about this in so many previous videos, but I cannot explain the amount of love and connection and community and just enriching, fulfilling people I've met by staying in co-living spaces and smaller boutique style hostels throughout my travels. I made the mistake on my first solo trip to Peru by staying in Airbnbs the whole time, and after a while I start to feel really isolated. I, like to have my own space. It's nice, but I do lack that connection and like instant community that you get by living in a shared living space like a hostel or a co-living. And I mentioned this in my last video about safety, but if you have any preconceived notions about hostels, I want you to throw those right out the window, because there are some gems out there that are all over the world that are really, really nice, have amazing amenities. You just have to know what to look for. But the reason I love staying in smaller hostels and co-living spaces as a solo traveler is because there's already a built-in community. If you're staying at a good one, a good co-living space and a good hostel will really prioritize, everyone making friends and having community building activities and planning trips around the city or the destination that you're in. For example, when I was in Mexico, I stayed at Co404 Co-Living quite a bit. There are 2 locations, one in Oaxaca City and one in San Cristobal. I stayed in both and they are by far my favorite co-living space. I stayed in the Oaxaca City co-living for 3 weeks and we celebrate every single person's birthday with a cake and we sing. We have literal family dinner every Wednesday night, and every single week there's at least 1 or 2 trips planned around the city, whether you're going to a local market an hour away or you're gonna go on a hike, in a nearby town. There's just so much to do that you can sign up for. We sign up for them in the WhatsApp group. But yeah, there's usually things planned like that in hostels and co-living spaces. And if you're a solo traveler who wants to make friends, just say yes to all of it. I promise you won't regret it. The other reason I love staying in shared living spaces as a solo traveler is I feel really, really safe staying here as opposed to staying by myself in an Airbnb. You have people that are looking out for you. People are less likely to follow you home if you're living with other travelers, and you'll get kind of like the inside scoop on the local destination where you're at. So, you can ask people, hey, where are some places that I should go check out? Or are there any areas I should avoid? I discussed that more in my previous video if you wanna go check that out. There are several platforms where I find the co-living spaces that I stay at, and co-livings are kind of like hostels. They're shared living spaces, but they're geared more towards an older demographic. So usually late 20s, 30s, 40s, people who work online, people who travel slowly, a lot of, slow traveling digital nomads, which I really love. And people tend to stay in these spaces for longer than they do in hostels. Hostels tend to be a lot more transient. It's kind of hard a lot of the times to make long-lasting connections in party hostels and, big backpacking hostels, because people are just bouncing from place to place every few days. Whereas at co-living spaces, people are often there for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks at a time, if not more. So it's a really great way to actually meet people and make long-lasting connections, which is really nice. But I usually find my co-living spaces or my digital nomad focused hostels on Cowork Surf, Hostel World. I'll just Google best co-living spaces in blank destination or best digital nomad hostels in blank destination. I'll go on Nomadic Matt's website. He has a lot of great guides for hostels that are geared towards solo travelers or digital nomads, and then word of mouth from other travelers. This is huge. So if I'm staying in one co-living space that I really love or a hostel that I really love, I will either ask around or I'll just hear people say, oh my God, you're going to this destination, you have to check out, this co-living or this hostel, and I'll go in my maps and I'll pin it and I will, save it for later. So that's a really great way to, get some word of mouth recommendations. I've stayed in so many places because of that. I think that's actually how I found Co404 in the first place, was word of mouth. And it's really important when you're looking at different accommodations to scour the reviews to see what other solo travelers in the past have, what their experience has been like in terms of how friendly are the people that stay there. Is it a social hostel? Do people kind of stay to themselves? Is it safe? What's the location like, etc. So I have all of my favorite accommodations that I've ever stayed at linked down below in the Nomad map if you want to check that out. And for more tips on how I find, really safe accommodations and shared living spaces to stay at, check out my safety video after this. Now, my second big tip for making friends as a solo traveler is to use social media to your advantage. I know we all love talking about how toxic social media is, but the truth is, you can really customize your feed and what you're seeing and who you're following on Instagram and TikTok. The algorithm is a really powerful thing, and if you start following other solo travelers or just other travelers in destinations that you're interested in, the algorithm will kind of see that you are interested in doing this, and it'll start pushing other people's content to you. I promise you, it is not weird. If you see someone who is traveling solo through, the destination you're thinking about going to, follow them, like their stuff, maybe send a comment, and then maybe send them a DM. I've done this so many times, even before I was really, doing social media as my job. I would just slide into people's DMs, be very shameless about it. It's totally normal. I do this all the time. And, I've met up with so many people all over the world just by meeting them on social media. And if you're not comfortable doing this, at least use social media to get tips and kind of the insider scoop on the destination you're going to. You can create a folder for different destinations and save different reels and helpful posts in there that you can reference later. The other thing that I almost always do when I'm traveling somewhere new is I will Google Facebook groups for digital nomads or solo travelers in blank destination, and it will usually pull up local Facebook groups that you can request to join if you're traveling there. And when you get accepted, you can go in there and you can see other people who are there posting about different meetups that are happening that you can go to, events that are happening, or just local scoop on, what you should be aware of, things to do. And I recommend kind of engaging with those people. If you find someone that you really vibe with and you think they're cool, send them a direct message, see if they're gonna be there the dates you're gonna be there, and then go ahead and do your own post in those groups. Introduce yourself, similar to if you're in like a housing group and you're looking for a roommate. Post in the solo travel group or a digital nomad group who you are, what you're all about, when you're gonna be in that destination, and I think you'll be surprised by the people that will reach out. There are so many solo travelers all over the world who are just like you and wanna make friends, so it's not weird, it's super normal to do this. And then once you've arrived in your destination, if you're staying in a shared living space, this is really helpful. You'll want to ask around to other travelers that have maybe been there for a little bit to see if there's a WhatsApp group or a Slack group for digital nomads or travelers. A lot of the times, if you're in a hub, there will be one, and this is even better than Facebook groups because a lot of the times there will be different chats for different types of things. Like there will be a hiking, channel in the Slack group, or a yoga channel, or a digital nomad channel, salsa classes, different events, parties that are happening, and you can kind of join them based on your interests. And it's a really great way to kind of see what's happening every single night and go to them. Just show up, and there will be other travelers just like you who are looking to meet other like-minded people, and it's a really great way to meet people right off the bat. The third tip that I would have for the solo travelers who are a little bit more nervous to dive right into solo travel, maybe you kind of just want to dip your toe in, you don't want to dive headfirst just yet, I recommend looking into some group trips. There are so many companies out there like Remote Year and EF Ultimate Break and Intrepid Travel that put on group trips for like-minded travelers. You can kind of narrow it down based on your interests and the length and the type of trip you want to go on, but this is a really great way to, have an instant group of travel friends right off the bat that you can travel with, have really great experiences with, and then after the trip is over, you'll have probably made some really great lifelong friends, or at least friends that you can plan some trips with, and it's absolutely amazing. I actually put on some group trips myself. I just did a Bali group trip a few months ago, and it was so incredible. It like blew my expectations out of the water. There were 15 of us, and we had the best time exploring Bali for a week. And after the trip was over, 5 of the girls stayed in Bali and planned all these trips to Nusa Penida and the Komodo Islands. And it was just so cool to see these people who had never met before meet on this trip and then become friends that traveled together after the fact. So I absolutely loved that. And I am hosting another trip to Patagonia early next year from February 28th to March 6th. I would love to travel with you if you're big into hiking and you want to go to the Argentinian Patagonia. Sign up at the link down in the description box. There are still some spots available. But group trips are a really great way to just ease yourself into the travel world until you feel a bit more comfortable going out on your own. My next tip is to lean into your interests. So pretend you're moving to a new city. Maybe you got a job and a new state and you know absolutely nobody. How would you go about making friends there? Join a gym, go to a dance class, book an Airbnb experience with a group, sign up for a cooking class, or get scuba certified. There are seriously endless things that you can do. You just really need to think about, how do I want to spend my time in this city and how can I do it in a way that will surround me with like-minded people who enjoy doing the same things as me? So an example that I did was when I was in Puerto Escondido, I joined a gym called Paradise Gym on the beach. It was super cool. I love it. And I would go to their weekly HIIT class. And I ended up, there would be regulars that would come every week. And I ended up being friends with a few of them. Like, we kind of just would see each other around and start talking. And I actually met this woman who would come to the class every week, and we got to talking and we realized that we literally had the same itinerary. We were both going to Oaxaca City and then San Cristobal in the weeks after to the same accommodation. So I show up at the next accommodation, she's there, we go to dinner, we go to the gym together. It was just really fun. So if you put yourself in those types of environments, you're going to meet people if you put yourself out there. And I promise you, it's so normal in the travel community to walk up to someone in that class, introduce yourself, especially if you've seen them around once or twice. Just introduce yourself. Say that you would love to grab a coffee or go to a restaurant or, walk around the city one day. For a solo trip, like, imagine if someone came up to you and did that. I would be thrilled. Like, it's happened to me before. I do it to people all the time. If you just smile and make eye contact and just be genuine, it will come off really nicely. And the worst thing they can say is, oh no, I'm like leaving tomorrow or whatever. But you have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit. And if you're in an environment with like-minded people already, then your chances of them saying yes go way up. My next tip, and this goes out to my fellow digital nomads, remote workers, is to join a co-working space. Not only is this a great place to hold yourself accountable and be productive as a remote worker, but it's such a great place to network and meet other people who work online and probably have kind of a similar interest to you. And a lot of these co-work spaces will have networking events or kind of cultural exchanges happening throughout the week that you can join. So for example, in Sayulita, the Selena always has a salsa night, like every Wednesday or Thursday night. And people who aren't even staying at the Selena will come and do a salsa class before, and then it just kind of turns into a fun salsa dancing party. And it's just such a great way to meet other people. But there's also other networking events that you can do, like, post-work happy hour, or I remember I went to one where there was a glass making workshop or arts and crafts kind of thing where you just hang out, have a drink, meet other people who are at the co-work space. It's just a great way to network with other digital nomads and just build camaraderie that way. I also include all of my favorite co-work spaces and cafes in the Nomad map that's linked down below, and I continue adding to it everywhere I go. So I do recommend getting that if you want my personal recommendations, but if you just search co-work spaces in, the Google Maps where you are, you can kind of see which ones are around and see the ratings, and it's a really great way to network and make friends. Another tip that I have been learning more and more is really important for building those long-lasting friendships and connections, and that is to slow down. I know that not everyone has the luxury of, going on a trip without an end date, but if you do have that flexibility, I recommend staying in a destination for, at least a couple weeks. For me personally, a sweet spot is 3 weeks or so, and it really will allow you to put some roots down, get a routine, but also meet people and not have to say goodbye to them 3 days later, because that's what's hard about the backpacking culture is that you're in these hostels, you meet someone, maybe you have a crazy night out together and you really get along, but they're like, yeah, I'm going to Vietnam tomorrow, and you're like, bye, see you never. It's hard. So I do find that slowing down is a really great way to make this lifestyle a bit more sustainable and be able to actually meet these people and get to know them on a deeper level. And this leads me to my final point, which is to be open to new opportunities. I used to be so strict about sticking to my schedule, having a specific to-do list for every destination and having to check off every single one. I would book my accommodation out months in advance. And what ended up happening that I was not expecting, but it makes a lot of sense, is that I would get to my accommodation, I would meet incredible people who were a little bit more spontaneous than me, and they would invite me on a random trip that they just planned on a whim, or they said, you should come to our next destination. We're going to Guanajuato and we're booking this hostel. Do you want to book with us? But I've already have my next accommodation booked and the one after that and my flight to the next destination. And so I think it's important to find a balance, and this is what I've done now, is really strike that balance between planning ahead so that I am staying in the accommodation that suits my needs, but at the same time leaving room for spontaneity and, experiences that may pop up out of nowhere. That is what really leads to those life-changing memories that you have with people and, going on some spontaneous adventures. So I just recommend, it kind of goes along with the slowing down point, you want to leave yourself some space and time to just see what happens, because a lot will happen on the road when you're traveling and you just want to, be open to that. And the other thing is, when you're putting yourself in these situations where you may meet like-minded people, maybe you're working at a co-work space, or you're going to a cafe, or taking yourself on a lunch date, or having a solo beach day, you want to be as approachable as possible. What does that mean? Let me show you. This is me at a cafe on my phone. I would not walk up to that person. I would think, oh, they're busy on their phone. They don't want to talk to anyone. So what I try and do when I may be on a lunch date or, at the beach by myself, the most I will do, occasionally I'll go on my phone, obviously, but the most I will do to entertain myself if I'm feeling a little bit awkward or I'm just bored is I'll have my book. A book is a little bit, less intimidating than a phone, or I'll have my journal and I'll just kind of be casually writing something down. But I really just try and push myself out of my comfort zone. And now it's so easy for me because I've done it so many times. But if I'm going to brunch, for example, I went to brunch in Uluwatu a few weeks ago in Bali, and I just put my phone away and I was just eating my food, people watching. It was great. And I ended up getting to talk with this couple right next to me who was from Australia, and they gave me the best tips for different places to check out on the island, and we ended up just having a really great conversation. And if I had been on my phone or having my headphones in and watching a show on my phone while I'm out and about, there is no way that anyone's going to come up to you and talk to you because you're really not being approachable. So that's just something to think about. And on top of that, you can strike up a conversation with the bartender or your server. And at the very least, if someone walks by, make eye contact with them, give them a smile, just kind of show the world that you're open into making friends, and I promise you, things will start to come your way. That is it for my top 7 tips on how to make friends as a solo traveler. I actually wrote all of this up in a written blog post on my website. It's linked down in the description if that's easier for you to kind of refer back to. And if you liked this video, make sure to give it a like and share it with any other current or aspiring solo travelers who really want to find community while traveling. Because for me personally, connecting with other travelers and finding community on the road is one of the most fulfilling and amazing parts about this lifestyle. You know, in addition to being in a new destination and immersing myself in a new culture, I just love that I go to a new place and in my head, I'm just so excited to see who I'm gonna meet. And if you have that mindset going into it, I promise you that there's nothing but good that will come your way. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for more solo travel content. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. And also I have so many solo travel videos and vlogs on my channel that you should totally go check out, from Bali, Mexico, Colombia, you name it. And I'm about to go to Mexico again, which I'm super excited about, and next year there's just so many fun adventures to come. So make sure to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. If you made it all the way, you are ready to hit the road. I'm so excited for you. So as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!